in terms of rapid and blitz, it's a little bit more even. But here we go. Crunch time for these two players. Nodirbek Abdusattorov with the white pieces. And, oh, you can feel the tension there.
Right, absolutely.
The players not looking at each other at all.
Yep.
And both players.
And please remind us, Yovi, if there is any tiebreak, when does it start?
Well, if there is a tiebreak, it will be happening as soon as the relevant games have been finishing. There will be a pause of 15 to 20 minutes whilst things get set up, and then the players 3 seconds. And we will have a slide just to explain all the regulations, and we can show that later on in the show.
Yep.
And we have a first move.
So,
C4.
you know, on 4 boards where the leaders are playing, right, namely board 2 to board 5, not a single E4. So today, like, everyone decided to go for, you know, for closed openings, for something solid, because of course you want to win, but my God, do not you want to lose.
And yeah, well, let's have a look at C4 E6 played on board 3. That may or may not determine the champion of the Qatar Masters Open. And, well...
Yeah, knight C3,
Knight C3,
D5.
D5 played.
So it is, I think, right now is a choice. So do you play the Carlsbad by capturing on D5, or you go D4 and then...
D4
there is C5 also. I'm not sure if Erigaisi is that kind of a guy. No, C6.
C6.
A C6 is a very, very, I wouldn't say aggressive, but it is a very tricky line, right? So offering the so-called transposition to so-called not-a-bomb system, so that if white goes knight to F3, black, among other options, can take on C4.
That is true. And white does have some options here. You can take the pawn in the middle of the board and then just continue as if it was a QGD exchange.
Yep.
You can also just go for broke and play E2, E4 in the... Just absolutely do that. But that line is very sharp. Do you want to do that, especially if you've been surprised in the opening?
You certainly do not do this.
But not if
I mean,
does.
right, if you're not prepared, if you're surprised in the opening, you don't play E4. So if you're surprised in the opening, you don't play E4. How complex the line is. At least slightly aware how complex the line is. He enters this very, seems to be ready. And what was this very, very sharp line? And what was the answer? Takes on E4 and bishop B4 checks. So they takes on E4 and bishop B4 checks. So they are entering Slav Gambit, right? Bishop D2. Queen takes right? On D4. Bishop D2, queen takes on D4. Bishop B4, check. Bishop B4, queen takes the knight, will be check. Played. Queen takes the knight, and will then, be played. Yeah, bishop to E2, and then, yeah, bishop to E2. I believe the move is knight to A6. I believe the move is knight to A6. Yeah, so the board's lagging behind, yeah? Bishop so the board's lagging behind, yeah? And yeah, after knight A6 there are 3 moves, I think. Yeah, after knight A6 there are 3 moves, Bishop F8. Bishop C3 is a move that Bishop F8 is a funny move that white can play.
I think, wasn't Bishop F8 somewhat inaccurate? Wasn't Bishop F8 somewhat inaccurate?
It is funny, it cannot be taken because Queen D8 checked. It is funny, it cannot be taken because Queen D8 checked. Yeah, Bishop D6 is of course the main line. Knight A6, Bishop D6, and Knight A6, Bishop D6, and honestly
I'm putting it up on the database. Well, and I'm putting it up on the database. Main moves. I can tell you black's G2. Main moves. Why not go the whole hog? Takes G2. Why not go the whole hog? And there's other alternatives. Grab all the material. And there's other alternatives. B6. Tried E5, D7, B6, F6, Bishop D7, F6.
Right.
Yeah, and also Abdusattorov has employed this system twice. In his online games, 2 blitz games against Smirnov and Kazin.
And I can see that in that game, queen takes pawn was played. So shall we see how Nodirbek won that game.
Yes, so it was queen takes g2, and then bishop f3.
So you think it's my board? It's your board. I can't yeah, I can't analyze it regrettably.
Okay. Yeah, so it was like this, and then queen g6, and then knight e2. So it's going to be quite a sharp position then.
Absolutely.
f6,
So,
g1 with lots of pawn sacrifice here, and then knight c3. Bishop d7. Wow. Queen e2, and long castle, and long castle. This was what happened in their games, and Abdusattorov won this as white. It happened 2 years ago.
yeah, but in Blitz, sometimes, you know, you just play it, okay, 2 pawns down, who cares? Yeah, for the classical, it's a little bit more serious. So if you enter this position in classics, you're kind of saying, yes, I believe white has enough compensation objectively.
But also the fact that Arjun has willingly employed this line also suggests that there's serious work.
Queen to
behind the
g5.
background.
Yeah, queen g5 is one of the main responses as well. Played
Right.
more often than the queen g6 actually.
What does white do? Still goes knight e2.
Knight
right?
e2. And black there's been 5 games on my database, and black has always responded with knight to e7.
Yeah, knight e7, knight wants to go to f5 to disturb this bishop on d6, right? Because that's a huge part of white's compensation is the bishop on d6, which stops black from castling short and restricts a lot of black pieces.
news, as we just saw there in the camera, there was a massive blunder by Arjun Erigaisi. He squandered the win in one move, spoiling a drawn position. We are going to have to just immediately dive into the position and just take a look at what happened there.